The story of Peter's miraculous escape from prison is one of the most powerful examples of divine intervention in the Bible. Found in Acts 12 verses 1 to 19, this event demonstrates the power of faith, prayer, and God's ability to rescue His people from impossible situations. Set against the backdrop of growing persecution in the early church, this story is a testament to God's sovereignty and the unwavering faith of His followers. The early Christian church faced immense persecution after the resurrection of Jesus. King Herod Agrippa I, eager to gain favor with the Jewish leaders, began targeting key figures within the church. His actions were not just political. They were an outright attack on the movement that was spreading rapidly across Jerusalem and beyond. One of his first moves was the execution of James, the brother of John. This was a devastating blow to the believers, as James was one of the original 12 disciples of Jesus. Seeing that this act pleased the Jewish leaders, Herod sought to strike again. This time, he set his sights on Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples and a leader among the apostles. Herod ordered Peter's arrest during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, ensuring that his execution would be delayed until after the Passover celebrations. This was a strategic move to avoid unrest during the Holy Festival. Peter was placed under heavy guard, locked away in prison, with no hope of escape. The believers, however, refused to give up. Though they had no physical power to free Peter, they turned to the greatest weapon they had, prayer. They gathered together, crying out to God for a miracle. Peter's imprisonment was no ordinary captivity. King Herod took extreme precautions, assigning 16 soldiers to guard him, divided into 4 groups. At all times, Peter was chained between 2 guards, ensuring that escape was impossible. The prison itself was heavily secured, with iron gates and multiple guard posts. For all intents and purposes, Peter's fate was sealed. Herod fully intended to bring him out for public execution once the Passover had ended. It was a dark and hopeless situation. Despite the bleak circumstances, Peter remained calm. He had faced danger before, and he trusted in God's plan. Though he did not know if he would live or die, he did not panic. His faith in God's sovereignty remained unshaken. Meanwhile, the church continued to pray fervently. They had no idea how God would answer, but they trusted in His power to deliver Peter from his chains. On the night before Peter's execution, as the city of Jerusalem slept, something miraculous occurred. Peter, exhausted from the day's events, had fallen into a deep sleep despite being bound by chains. The guards beside him remained vigilant, ensuring that their prisoner did not escape. Suddenly, a bright light filled the prison cell. An angel of the Lord appeared, standing beside Peter. The angel struck Peter on the side, awakening him instantly. "Get up quickly," the angel. As Peter rose, the heavy chains that bound his wrists and ankles fell to the ground. Still half commanded asleep, Peter could hardly believe what was happening. The angel continued, "Dress yourself and put on your sandals." Obediently, Peter did as he was told. Then the angel said, "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me." Without questioning, Peter followed the angel out of the prison cell. What was happening seemed unreal, almost like a dream. But this was no dream. It was a divine rescue mission in action. Peter and the angel walked straight past the first set of guards, then the second. To Peter's amazement, none of the soldiers noticed them. It was as if they were invisible, completely hidden by divine intervention. Finally, they reached the great iron gate that led to the city. Peter expected resistance, but to his astonishment, the gate opened by itself. No human hands touched it. It simply swung open as if welcoming them to freedom. The angel led Peter down a quiet street, and just as suddenly as he had appeared, he vanished. Peter was left standing alone in the cool night air, free from chains, free from prison, free from the sentence of death. It was only then that Peter fully realized what had happened. Now I know for certain that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's grasp and from all that the Jewish people were expecting, he said, overwhelmed by the miracle. Knowing he could not remain in the open, Peter quickly made his way to a familiar house, the home of Mary, the mother of John Mark. This was a well-known gathering place for believers, and Peter hoped to find safety there. Inside, a group of Christians was still awake, praying fervently for Peter's release. Their prayers had been constant, filled with hope, but also with desperation. None of them expected what was about to happen. Peter knocked on the door, and a servant girl named Rhoda answered. When she saw Peter standing there, she was so overwhelmed with shock that she forgot to open the door. Instead, she ran back inside to tell the others. "Peter is at the door," she exclaimed. But the believers, rather than rejoicing, doubted her words. "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she insisted, they concluded, "It must be his angel." Despite their prayers for Peter's release, the believers struggled to accept that their prayers had actually been answered. When Peter continued knocking, they finally opened the door and were utterly amazed. There he stood, very much alive, a living testimony to God's power. The room erupted in joy and astonishment. They had prayed for this miracle, yet they had not truly expected it to happen in such a dramatic way. Peter motioned for them to quiet down. He knew they had to be careful. If the news of his escape spread too quickly, Herod's soldiers would soon be hunting him down. He recounted the miraculous events of the night, from the angel's appearance to the iron gate opening on its own. It was undeniable. God had delivered him. At dawn, chaos erupted in the prison. The guards were stunned. Peter was gone. The chains remained. The doors were locked. But their prisoner had vanished without a trace. Word quickly reached King Herod, and he was furious. He ordered an immediate search for Peter, but no amount of searching could explain what had happened. In his rage, Herod interrogated the guards, demanding answers. When none could be provided, he sentenced them to death. To save face, he had to make it seem as though someone was to blame for the impossible. Though Herod thought he had power over life and death, he was about to learn a lesson. No earthly king can stand against the will of God. Not long after Peter's escape, King Herod faced his own reckoning. One day, as he stood before a crowd dressed in his royal robes, the people began to shout, "This is the voice of a god, not a man." Instead of giving glory to God, Herod basked in their praise. At that moment, the judgment of God struck him. The Bible records that an angel of the Lord struck him down, and he died, eaten by worms. The man who had sought to destroy the church was gone, but the movement he tried to crush only grew stronger. The story of Peter's escape is a powerful reminder of what God can do when his people pray. The church was defenseless against Herod's might, yet their prayers led to an undeniable miracle. Peter's escape was not just about his survival. It was a sign that God's plans could not be stopped. No prison walls, no chains, and no king could stand in the way of his will. Today, this story continues to inspire believers, reminding them that even in their darkest moments, God is still in control. Peter's miraculous escape teaches us that faith and prayer are powerful weapons. Even when all hope seems lost, God is able to do the impossible. Like Peter, we may face trials and persecution, but we can trust that God is always working behind the scenes. No matter how strong the enemy appears, God is stronger. He is the ultimate deliverer, the one who opens prison doors and sets his people free. Let this story be a reminder that faith in action moves mountains. Keep praying, keep believing, and watch God work in ways beyond your imagination. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. Please like, subscribe, and share.